Models are continuing to show big temperature changes to end 2024. This comes as an active weather pattern is also likely. I have all the details right here in this video.
One Nation Weather.
Thank you so much for taking time to tune into this video as we push into the pre-Christmas weekend. We're almost to the end of 2024, and I've got an update on all the patterns through the rest of it here. And I want to go ahead and start it out with a look at the jet stream 15 to 20,000 feet on up into the atmosphere, because what happens up here dictates the surface patterns. This is a look at the European ensemble averages, and what this really gives you a good look at is where consensus is in our bigger ridges and troughs where the jet stream is being pushed north and where the jet stream is being pushed south, allowing for warmer and cooler air through the rest of the month. In this case, as we go through the rest of this pre-Christmas weekend, this is the overall jet stream flow as you can see on your screen. And when you got the jet stream being pushed generally northward into parts of the western and central U.S., we are going to see a general return flow of warmer than average air, if warmer than average air is not already in place in these areas as we make our way through the rest of this weekend and into the early part of our Christmas week. Meanwhile, with this dip down here into the eastern U.S., we are going to be seeing a funnel of some cooler than average air, at least for the near term, just for the next few days, making its way out of the Midwest, pushing down into the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, as well as into parts of the Northeast. That's not going to last long, though, and in fact, as I zoom things out to give you a look at the general North American pattern with the jet stream as we go into our Christmas week, stopping on Christmas afternoon itself, look at the overall pattern here. You can see that strong Pacific jet stream, and this is your polar jet stream cutting down into the Pacific Northwest. Other than an active pattern it's going to bring there, the actual polar jet stream itself is mostly going to be making its way north into parts of central Canada. This kind of huge ridge at this time in the year means that temperatures are going to be well above average, 15, 20, 25 to even 30 degrees above average, pretty much for everyone coming out of the western into the central and eventually even the eastern U.S. as we see a push like this of warmer air going through our Christmas week. So do not anticipate a white Christmas. If anything, maybe a wet Christmas in a lot of zones, as an active pattern will also follow this. Why is it an active pattern? You can also see that on the jet stream. These cut-off pieces of energy that actually come off that polar/Pacific jet stream, they could make their way down here through the south central U.S. and keep things generally active with at least some rain and eventually maybe even some stronger storms by the end of our Christmas week. Let me go ahead and give you a look at that here with those European ensembles. Notice what they show, that continued strong flow into the west, and eventually we continue to see signs with these deeper blues and eventually turning into lighter blues that we'll see more of a flow cutting out of the Rockies and making its way down here through the central and eastern U.S. as this polar/Pacific jet stream actually makes more of that move towards the south and east. You got more energy and you got a bigger storm potential sometime as we go into those closing days of December, before as we go into early January, we might begin to see the jet stream really dip down towards the southeast U.S. once again, like we've been seeing at times throughout December, and that could mean bigger cool air, maybe at a good time for some snowstorms into January. That's a story for another time, though. Let's go ahead and give you a look at the precipitation pattern that's anticipated as we make our way throughout the rest of December. Now that you've seen the overall pattern with the jet stream, you can really see that we are going to be seeing warmer than average air making a return, and that's the case as we go through this weekend, other than a spot of snow here or there off the lakes and parts of the Great Lakes into the interior Northeast, and some of the rain and high elevation snow we're seeing back into the Pacific Northwest. Most of the country is remaining on the drier side, and you see these red lines. That indicates the return of ridging, pushing back north through the central United States. The first sign of rain and snow is going to come conveniently on our Monday here as travel begins for a lot of folks for our Christmas week. Look at this, heading out of our Monday into our Tuesday, December 24th, our early part of our Christmas Eve. GFS ensemble guidance, that's what you're looking at here. So a collection of models really just kind of in their mean of where they're showing the best chances of precipitation, indicating a good chance of rain coming somewhere out of the southern or the central plains, making its way here into the mid-Mississippi Valley and the Midwest around that time frame. Meanwhile, as you go up here towards the interior Northeast, maybe back into the Great Lakes briefly as well, we could see a brief shot of snow with whatever early week system we have here. The jet stream energy is only going to get stronger with that cutoff energy making its way down through the southwest U.S. into the south central plains by Christmas, though. That means somewhere, I think, especially right in this zone, as you can see, we're going to see a good chance for at least some scattered showers and thunderstorms. I don't think it's going to be a full-on washout, but we'll definitely have some scattered downpours throughout this general region into our Christmas day, and maybe even some stronger thunderstorms to go along with that. That's going to be something to certainly watch. Once we get beyond Christmas, the active weather pattern continues to show up on these models and ensemble guidance. And notice some of these darker greens may be indicating even higher confidence in a heavier storm sometime by the end of next week. Also notice the continued flow of rain and then some rocky snow back into the west. overall, with that big ridge moving up like this as we close out, especially these December days, I think we're going to continue to see a flow of moisture just like these ensembles are showing, and on and off chances of rain, especially through those areas that have the green, all the way to the end of the month. And eventually that could certainly lead to some severe weather on the southern end of all these rain and storms with all the warmth that's going to be in place. That's going to be something to watch. You could see there by the end of our December timeframe, and as we push towards our New Year's Eve, we might begin to see some more of this precip action pushing towards the east coast, and then also some snow trying to work its way through parts of the northern plains. That's all really a time will tell type of situation. But again, this GFS ensemble agrees with what that European jet stream is also just showing. Look at all those blue lines sinking south, all the way as far south as like right here by the time we go into early January. We will eventually see cool air make a return to the pattern. That's not going to be any time in the rest of this month, I really don't think, though, unless you're maybe in the far northern or western U.S. Just for one other perspective on the precipitation pattern we could have upcoming, here's a look at your European model all by itself, not being averaged out with any other ensemble members. There you go. Here's a look at what could happen early next week. Maybe a brief shot of snow along with some rain showers to the south of that as you make your way up here through parts of the Midwest and the Great Lakes. Overall, though, the real chances of precipitation are going to be with whatever action we have with these cutoff pieces of energy working their way down here into the south central U.S. by Christmas, and then whatever's going back on out here into parts of the Pacific Northwest working their way into the Rockies with these storms. Once we get beyond the Christmas time frame, that's when those GFS ensembles were continuing to show, and I talked about this in my last video as well, a more active pattern somewhere here into the central U.S. There's a storm signal, not as large scale as some other signals have been, but there's a low right there with potential for at least some severe weather in the southern U.S. as the ridge continues allowing warmer than average air to dominate the pattern towards the end of our Christmas week and towards the last several days of December. Again, I think something big is going to happen even if not every single individual model run shows it, because eventually we are going to have, as you see here, this European model showing cool air making a return by the beginning of 2025. When you have cool air suddenly making a return into some warmer air, that usually means there's enough phasing of jet streams and, other weather patterns for there to be a bigger storm system. Something big is coming, and it could mean some severe weather or maybe even some snow for some folks as we go to the very end of December. I'd bet more on severe weather for some zones, though, as a result of that warmer air. To give you a look at how warm it's going to be, here's a quick look at those European ensemble members and what they're showing with the actual temperature anomalies heading towards our Christmas week. First of all, there's your cutoff between cool and warm air into our Monday. Notice most areas are warm if you're west of that line. On the east side of it, some 10, 15, 20 degree below average air to start the week, though, towards the east coast. That won't last long, though. That big ridge building up in Canada by the middle to the back half of next week. And look at what happens by the time we go towards, say, the Thursday, December 26th time frame. Right after Christmas, temperatures 10, 15, 20 degrees above average, all the way through all these zones here into the central United States. It will only continue, I think, and these ensembles, in fact, are betting on even warmer air for the last few days of December before all of a sudden that warmer air gets pushed east. So after many systems, eventually some cool air will probably make a return to the pattern, and it could lead to a very frigid January, but again, that's a story for yet another time. One last thing that I do want to talk about here before I recap some of the details I covered in this video. Here's a look at some of these actual temperatures that are forecasted in terms of the highs day by day through the next 5 to 7 days in the weather pattern. Here we go. You can see your western and Rockies ridge as we make our way through this weekend. There's your Saturday time frame with 50s and 60s anywhere south of this line in general. Meanwhile, to the northeast side of that line, look at all these 20s, especially that are going to be to the north of this line right here. I mean, these are peak temperatures during the day, so in the morning, lots of spots around 0 to the single digits, especially when you factor in the wind chill. Make sure that you are, paying attention to people, pipes, and pets. Those are the main things to be concerned about, of course, when it comes to these cool downs. The cool down will only continue to push east and out of here as we go through Sunday and Monday, as I talked about in the last video. Notice some of these 40s and 50s starting to encroach back on the Midwest, the Ohio Valley as early as our Monday, December 23rd, with a more south to north flow as a result of that ridge. Back down here towards Texas and Louisiana, looking at 60s and 70s as we kick off our Christmas week. That will only continue to build. By Tuesday, a lot more 50s, 60s, and 70s down in the south central U.S. And by Wednesday, this is your Christmas day itself. Temperatures could be in the teens and 20s up here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan this time of the year. We are going to be around freezing to even pushing into the mid to upper 30s above freezing here into that Christmas afternoon time frame. So it's definitely going to be on the borderline of seeing some of that snow beginning to melt around the Christmas time, even if you do have some snow on the ground for now with the cool air in place. Look at this. The warmth only continues to build, and it will probably only continue to do so as the rest of the month goes on. This National Digital Forecast database goes out through Thursday, and you can see even more 40s and 50s trying to push on up here with a 50-degree high as far north as like Fort Wayne, Indiana, and into Chicago, Illinois by the end of next week. So again, a generally warmer than average pattern for the last several days of the month overall. Here we go, though. Here's a quick recap in the next minute or so of everything I've talked about in this video. There's a look at your Christmas forecast, a custom graphic I made right here. Using some of that model and ensemble guidance, you can see where we're expecting rain and snow on Christmas. In a lot of these zones, it's more of just a chance of some scattered showers and storms, including the mid-south. Some of the rain that falls there could be on that heavier side. We could also see some snow, maybe in places like Maine, and then as well as with a better chance of snow back into the northwest. Overall, though, a lot of the country dry, and that leads me into this final headlines recap for this video. Of course, an active stormy pattern will finish 2024. It's going to end with a bang, but not necessarily a snowy bang for many areas, as temperatures will turn warmer. In fact, much warmer than average across the country as we close out the month. I'm still watching that dynamic storm signal that could tap into that warmer than average air, especially as we go beyond Christmas and towards the last 5 days of December. Maybe some severe weather on its southern side, and then some snow back behind it into the Rockies. Cool air is looking more likely once again for many zones of the country, though, as we push towards the new year. And I'll keep you updated on all the weather patterns ahead with these awesome weather model maps that I get from Weatherbell. There's a free trial link to them right down below in the description to this video, as I always say, if you want to check them out. Other than that, though, that is all I have got for this video. If you want to hit that subscribe button, if you're new to the channel especially, I'd love it if you'd hit that button right down below. I'm not going to tell you that there's snow coming if there's not, and I'm not going to just call every video massive snow coming, you know, huge snow signal for Christmas, all that stuff. So I hope you enjoy that kind of content, and I'll see you back in the next video if you subscribe.
One Nation weather.